Welcome to the clinical cookout. You know you need it, it's kinda scary, but mental health is necessary. Four educated queens taking the lead, hold their hands and they'll help you succeed. Lay your head back, relax, just like that. Now listen to, learn, and your problems will burn away. Cookout, you know, we got just what you need. At the cookout, your heart and mind we will be. At the cookout.
This podcast is for educational purposes only. We are qualified clinicians who will cover various topics on mental health and will sometimes provide community resources. We are not being paid by any organization for our content, and any information we provide is general and pertains to our own personal experiences. We do not provide psychotherapy, diagnoses, or treatment recommendations on air. Any concerns related to your individual mental health should be directed to your medical and mental health professionals. We are not responsible for others' decisions or the subsequent consequences.
All right, y'all, welcome back to the Clinical Cookout, and we want to talk about our hot sauce today, which is trauma bonding. And I know a whole bunch of people, including myself, who has done some trauma bonding before. Trauma bonding is bonding with somebody that causes you emotional harm, physical harm, just bonding with somebody that causes you trauma. So let's get into it. I know I've been in a trauma bond before. I probably caused some of the trauma too. But what about y'all ladies?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've been in one before. It's kind of like it's not just like a bond, it's like a pull towards that person. Like no matter what happens, sometimes you can even see that this person is not good for you, but you just can't pull away from them. It's like this like pull towards each other and you just can't like get away from it.
Pull is because of the cycle itself. There are, like if you research it, a lot of the research shows there are 7 stages to a trauma bond. So a part of the pull is that back and forth, the positive reinforcement, the love bombing. Like you know that this person is harmful, but you also love them and they show love to you. So it kind of keeps you coming back.
Even like in an abusive relationship. So when you say love bomb, I'm gonna clarify that for everybody because a lot of people talk about love bombing, but you might be mad at somebody and all of a sudden you getting flowers, cards, candy. They showing up for everything. They're so in love with you. It's over the top, and you're like, this is who I'm with. This is who I attach myself to. This is the love of my life. And then the next thing you know, they doing something stupid, and you're like, but hold on, you went back to being that other person that I knew. You overwhelmed me with love, and then now we back to where we started. And I mean, that's every relationship cycle, right? But when it's the trauma bond, that's when it's harm.
Yeah, I think people get confused with that because they feel like, so is it love bombing if we had an argument and my partner apologizes and maybe buys me something or takes me somewhere? No, because if emotional or physical abuse is not present, then no, that's just somebody being apologetic and trying to make sure you know that they do care and all that. But with this in particular, that element of emotional abuse where it goes from that to this cycle of now you being criticized and now you being name called or now you be like all these things happen and then they try to pour it on thick to pull you back in.
I think one of the hardest things about trauma bonding is the manipulation, and I feel like that's really hard to understand the differences between when someone is trying to make up for it and do right versus someone who is telling you what you want to hear, and saying things and doing things to overcompensate for their manipulative behavior and acts. And it's just like, and then we get mad at those people for staying, but really we're not even taking into consideration about the mental manipulation that goes on in these type of relationships. And so I know I had that going on and I did not understand it or didn't recognize it until I stepped outside of it and I was like, dang, he almost got me. And it was a very, very eye-opening experience for me. And I think I would say personally for me, someone who's very, and I'm going to blame it on my sign, someone who's very ego-driven and stubborn and feel like somebody can't get anything past me or pull the wool over my face. It happened, and it can get to the best of us, especially when you have somebody who's good at being manipulative.
That manipulation element is really big because we hear this term a lot too, and I'm glad Auntie should clarify love bombing, but gaslighting is a part of the cycle. So that's manipulative when somebody trying to get you to think you crazy. Like I didn't do that. Like you remembering some harm that they did to you, and they like that never happened. Like you remembering that wrong. I would never do that to you, and you sitting here questioning yourself. Like maybe that's not how it happened. Maybe it's just me tripping. You think it's you. So now that falls right into that manipulation, and a lot of people really can't see that as it's happening to them.
No,
And
it's first of all, I hate the word gaslighting. In 2025, I don't want to hear it no more. The word is I'm throwing it out of everybody's vocabulary. It's gone. It's
You
manipulation.
can't just throw away a real thing.
I'm throwing away the word. But no, I've talked to people who were like they in a physically abusive relationship, but then you be like y'all physically abusive, yeah, like you being beat up sometimes, and it's like no, we fighting, but you still bonded to that person. That's the definition of that's a good example of a trauma bond too, and being gaslit or manipulated all in all of it.
One thing I want people to realize too, one of the biggest things I tell clients to look for if they feel like, am I in this trauma bond relationship or am I in even if I'm just in an abusive relationship, have you lost yourself? Loss of self is a big thing. Like, are you who you've always been? Or are people in your life who've known you forever telling you, you seem different, like you're not yourself. You don't act like yourself. You seem real off. And you feel like, who am I? Like I've lost my host and stuff. I'm not the same person anymore.
yeah, and I do think that situations like this. So I agree that a lot of people don't realize that it's happening to them when it's happening. And then some people do, and they still just can't or don't want to get away from it. Because then we get stuck in this whole like, we got so much history. I've invested so much of my life in you. So I'm just going to stay and deal with this because, like, what else is there for me to do? Um, but I think when people get involved in with a trauma bond, there's also a attachment style involved there as well on both ends. So you have two people with probably a similar attachment style, but it just looks differently in the way that they present it. Um, and that's part of why that bond stays or remains, is because they have a similar way of attaching to people and they don't want to let go or break loose. So today, in our main dish, we're going to be talking about attachment styles. So let's go ahead and get into it.
At the cookout, you know, we got just what you need. At the cookout, your heart and mind.
All right, so for our main dish today, we are going to talk about attachment styles. And actually, talking about all of the different attachment styles will probably take a whole lot of time that we don't want to spend today. So we're actually going to hone in on one particular one. So you have secure attachment and you have insecure attachment. And with insecure attachment, you have different types of insecure attachment styles. The one I want to discuss today is anxious avoidant attachment. Have y'all heard of that attachment style before? Like, do y'all know what that means?
I just gave one of my clients. I be giving it's like a little generic quiz on the internet because I'm getting sick of people like not understanding that it's the way that you're attaching to people is why things are not working. So I started giving like the little generic quiz, and a few of mine have anxious avoidant, and I just love diving into that one.
Anxious avoidant is interesting, and it's exactly what it says. Anxious and avoidant. It's like that push and pull again. Like I need to be close to you. I need to make sure that like we're good and like I have control over this. If you get mad at me, like I need to come and do everything I can to like make sure you're good. But also I don't want to get too close to you because then you're gonna hurt me. So I'm gonna try to like be distant. So it's so confusing for people, but it really impacts relationships in such a negative way, and people don't even realize that.
You know what personality disorder it looks like?
What?
Borderline.
It does look like borderline. It does. It does. And people with borderline personality can have an anxious avoidant attachment style. Um, I think the difference is though with the personality disorder, it happens with everybody. Like everybody feels that from you. But when it's just like attachment issues, it's like certain people. Like it might just be in your romantic relationships, or it might only be in your friendships, but you're secure in your romantic relationships. So that's what I've seen as a difference.
Yeah.
I think it's important for people to know that your attachment style happens. Like we get our attachment style very early on. This is something that starts in infancy. Your primary caregiver is who creates this style in you, how they care for you, how they show up for you. So what I find with some of my clients, because I do that little quiz online too for my clients, what I find is a lot of them who have this particular one, anxious avoidant, they tend to have abandonment issues. And so they are always scared somebody's going to leave me. This person going to leave. If I don't get close, they'll leave. But if I get too close, I don't want to get hurt. So they go back and forth. It's like a roller coaster, like a teeter totter for them. Like I want to stay, but I want to go. And then a lot of times too, as soon as somebody tells me I avoid conflict, anytime somebody start a conflict or it's a problem, I run from it. I'm like, oh, I wonder if you got an anxious avoidant attachment style.
Didn't we learn in school that abandonment is like the core or the foundation of borderline?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't tripping. And that's what we had learned in school. So I think that, I've worked in the past with individuals with borderline, but I never, I guess, thought about the attachment style. So that makes a lot of sense though. 2 + 2 is 4 right now.
Good job. I'm glad it's no longer 6.
So I'll admit that I have learned that I do have an anxious attachment style. It's not anxious avoidant, it's just the anxious attachment. It's that need for me to make sure everyone in my life is like happy with me. And like if someone's upset with me, it's going to like nag at me until I resolve that issue with them. So I'm going to be like calling and texting. I think we had like an episode where Keish was saying when there's conflict with friends, like I need some space. Like I need some time. You're going to have to give me a week. She said a week. That's a little outrageous, but that's what she said. But for me with an anxious attachment style, it's like no, like I might could give you 24 hours, but after that, like I need to hash it out. We're gonna have to figure it out.
It's not enough time for me to think through my thoughts. I still
It
think
is
about
enough
that
time.
episode. I still think about that episode here and there because I'm like, they really was mad about that week.
Yeah.
Because if it take a week, we might not even be friends.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Like I done created all these scenarios in my head. We're gonna have to talk it out. Or you done like sabotage me in some way based on my thoughts, and we can't be friends no more because you did that to me, even though you didn't really do that.
You saw Inside Out too. Remember, anxiety was doing all of them different scenarios in a week. Anxiety is going crazy in our head. Like, man,
what is wrong with y'all? I feel like trying to sleep.
That's what it is. We got anxious attachment styles, and mine came straight from my mama. Straight up. I already know. We done talked about it all these years. But yeah,
Mine
so
is
that
avoidant.
I've learned that about myself.
I used to be avoidant.
I said I think mine is avoidant. It might be insecure avoidant sometimes. Sometimes it be insecure, sometimes it could be avoidant because I will avoid friendships at all costs. And some of it is probably anxious avoidant actually. Because I'm nervous that like I'm gonna get hurt. And when I get hurt, it's not good. I'm like that girl on thin line between love and hate. Like it's just not a good thing. So I think even with friends, like with my lovers and stuff like that, like I can't be hurt. It's just not good. So I like to avoid the attachment altogether because I don't want to attach to you and then you disappoint me as people do. So like that anxious avoidant is kind of like if I do attach to you, how is it gonna be? Are you gonna love me? Are you gonna be there? Are you gonna, you know what I mean? Are you gonna dog me? Am I gonna be able to trust you? That's the anxious side. But then the avoidance side is I'm not even about to mess with nobody at all because I don't feel like going through the roller coaster of this relationship. And so I just kind of avoid the attachment altogether.
if I can convince myself that I don't care, I don't care. Go to hell then. Like that's me. And I will just if Keish stopped talking for a week, after about 3 days, I'm in dismissive mode. She better not call me. I'm blocking her number. I got nothing else to say.
I just want the audience to know that it ain't me. Okay? I just want the audience to know it's not me. It's not me. I'm just chilling over here.
Do any of us have a secure attachment? Like of the four of us, Keish, you got a secure attachment style, or what's yours?
Um,
Do you know?
I don't know. I would say it's different from my friendships versus relationships. So with my friendships is pretty secure. Like I feel safe with my friends. I feel like my friends can meet my emotional needs. I don't feel like I ever have to worry about that. But my relationships, I'm very resistant. I can be resistant or dismissive. Like I'm just like, all right, you don't do one thing, bye. And it like there is no, I don't go through any, well maybe no, what I say goes. And that's just it. I don't know if that's an attachment style or anything. It's just maybe that's just my beliefs and my standards. I don't know.
Because you can easily cut people off. You don't,
Mhm.
it's not hard for you per se. But I'm
Yeah,
glad you said it's different with different people because I think people
it
don't
is.
realize that too. Your attachment style can change depending on relationship. A lot of times what we show up as in our romantic relationships is very different in our friendships and even in our familial relationships. So you can have different styles and your style can change. You can go from like if you grew up in chaos, but you do the work on yourself, you can become more secure over time. It's a matter of building trust with the people in your life at that point.
And I would say I just wanted to say it's even breaking broken down more for me when it comes to cultural groups. I'm very secure with the black women that I'm with. Well, white women, I tell them all the time, listen, you got 5 years before I can trust you. So you got to work hard to make sure that I can trust you. And that's just it. Period. There is no ifs, ands, or buts with me because I've been hurt by the people that I cared about who didn't look like me. And so I'm not about to let you play on my top. And I don't hide that from them. I just don't. It is what it is.
So you something happens, you build a wall. You're not as vulnerable anymore with a particular people group or a particular person. And that speaks to your attachment style. Like I don't attachment styles are heavily built on trust. That's why they start in infancy. You learn to trust your caregiver. If you cannot trust people, then your attachment style will speak to that. You will have an insecure attachment style of some sort.
And if they don't know, I let them know. Like, well, even if they don't know, and if they ask me, I'll tell them. That's not, I had to be secure enough to be like, this is what happens. This is what I need to do to protect myself, especially nowadays of what's going on. But this is what I got to do to protect myself. And most people may call that bizarre, or they're like, is it really that serious? Maybe it's not for everyone else, but for me, it is that serious. So I tell my supervisor that all the time. She ain't she ain't new to this. She already know.
They're built on trust. The attachment styles are built on trust, but they're also they're shaped by trauma too. So it sounds like you're talking about a little bit of trauma and like cultural mistrust too, because cultural mistrust is rooted in trauma. So it's kind of like that's why I'm attaching to you this way. And I think even like with relationships with me, I attach that way because of trauma, right? Some stuff that I seen and some stuff that I felt. Now over time, I think becoming more secure has been a blessing. Like when you like with kids, like with my children, I have a very secure attachment style, but so it does start to change from person to person. And then I think during the course of time your attachment styles can be shaken too, so because you can become secure and you could have worked on yourself and then
Mhm.
somebody does something to destabilize you again, so it's a constant work in progress.
And that's what happened to me in 2015. Shook me, y'all. Shook. And it was a relationship, a friendship, and a sort of like a family relationship all dismantled within a 6 month period. Shook me to the core. I ain't been the same since. Maybe that's my stuff, but it shook me.
That's the thing. It's so much easier for you to go from a secure attachment style, have something negative happen to you or something traumatic happen to you, and then you end up with an insecure attachment style. It just happens quicker or easier that way than the other way. So if
Yeah.
you start off with an insecure attachment style, it takes a lot of work, internal and external, because part of it is you and how you were raised, but the other part of it is the environments that you place yourself in, the people you put yourself around, and their character and the type of people you attract. But it's just so much more difficult to go from insecure to a secure attachment. It's so hard. So, I mean, it's doable, but it's hard. A lot of my clients with the anxious avoidant attachment, I think I have like 3 right now with anxious avoidant attachment styles, but it's like when you're in it, you cannot see anything different. Like, this is how I am. This is never going to change. How do I deal with it? I'm like, it can change, but this is what we have to do to get there. And it's a long journey.
As opposed to it stemming from how your parents raised you or other relationships you've been into. If you experience loss at a young age for a child, she lost one of her parents very young. That is another thing. You could be as secure as ever up until that point, but something that traumatic for a child, a loss of a parent that young, even though that's a natural occurrence, right? Children sometimes internalize that as everyone will leave, so I can't get too close to someone. Everybody dies. Somebody's going to die. If I love them too hard, they'll die. And so that's a really tough one too, because that's still a part of life. Death is going to happen. So when you experience it that young, it's kind of hard to get back to secure because you know that that's going to happen in life.
You know, I meet a lot of people when they lost their parents when they're young, and oh my God, I'm gonna have to be careful when I say this. They're not easy to be in relationships with. I'll say that. When they lost a parent when they're young, they are not the easiest people to be in relationships with because you never get over that. And then a lot of them don't like to look at it, so they don't even get through it. So they just constantly living in that cycle. And then, obviously you want somebody, so they do enough to get with somebody and they show enough love to be with somebody. But then throughout the whole relationship, their attachment is like it's anxious avoidant. It's almost kind of I hate you, don't leave me sometimes. And it's that I've found that they are not the easiest ones to be in a relationship with because they don't want to necessarily look at that trauma of losing their parent, because then they feel like if I look at it, then it's real, even though they're living in that real space every single day. So their attachment style keeps going in circles.
Yep.
That's like one of the biggest takeaways from this episode is that mainly if you're having problems in relationships, and it's a particular type, like it's only romantic relationships or it's only your friendships, then go online and take an attachment style quiz and see what your attachment style is, because that may explain a lot of it for you. It may not always be like a mental health disorder. Sometimes it can be, but it may not always be a diagnosis or a mental health disorder. It could just be that you have this attachment style and you don't know about it, or you don't know what it is or what it means or why you have it. So you're not able to do anything to change it without that knowledge or that awareness.
Saying that a lot of people sort of distress that they experience or anything that has any mental health jargon is all of a sudden a mental health diagnosis. And those are not the same thing. So thank you for clarifying that for the audience.
We talk about romantic relationships with attachment styles a lot, but also parenting. Your parenting style has a lot to do with your attachment style to your own parents as well, how you connect with your kids. Because Auntie Shug said her attachment style with her kids is secure. But for some people, if they had a disorganized, chaotic attachment style in childhood, they carry that right on over to their own kids. So
Yeah.
also pay attention to how you are interacting and attaching to your children, because it could be showing up there too.
Absolutely, y'all. That was my whole dissertation.
Sure was.
But yes, that's true. And
Yeah.
that's why it's important for you to educate yourself and become aware of what your attachment style is so that you are not passing that down to your kids. Unless it's secure, you want to pass down a secure one. But anything other than that, you do want to be knowledgeable about it.
Also, I married somebody with an anxious attachment style too. So while it's not me making these kids anxious, they might be genetically anxious too.
No, the funny thing is, you already know me and your husband, we twins, both anxious attachment. When you were describing your avoidant attachment, I was like, God, that just sounds like Marcus, like all day. So it is hard for those two different attachment styles to come together. Um, but now that we've talked about it, my question to our viewers, what is your attachment style? Go take the attachment style quiz and let us know.